The second chapter of JJK Modulo is out, and this is your only warning for spoilers, so if you don't want to see spoilers, click off the video right now. Without further ado, let's just start. There's a Sukuna level threat right here among the aliens. Now, of course, this is purely speculation because they only realized that this is a Sukuna level threat once this absolute behemoth walked in. When he walked in, the two sorcerers, which again, Usami being one of them is crazy, you know, if it is our Usami from back in the day, but they saw him and they immediately got chills. And there's so much to dissect in this one chapter, such as there being someone like Tengen, and of course this all tying back to, were Sukuna and Tengen aliens originally, or did they have alien blood within them? Now, it's pretty interesting because Tengen was the next step of humanity, and it does seem like his evolution was going towards the aliens, like you can just see on the screen, looks exactly the same. So does that imply that these aliens are actually humans, but from an evolved, more distant race? I mean, it's not impossible. We don't really know the history of JJK, why Japanese people specifically are sorcerers, and what the deal is with these aliens. Why are they taking refuge? Why are they specifically coming for Earth? And it's interesting that they're doing this in a diplomatic way. Of course, we know that there's more to this than what's on the surface. But what's really got me interested is this absolute behemoth. When this guy, they just see him and they feel him, and they just know that this is what they mean by a Ryomen Sukuna level threat. Now, I do have a video coming out after this specifically about Yuji, but for now I want to focus on this because I read these leaks and I was just shocked that this was out. I mean, I guess it made sense when they said that 50,000 aliens were the equivalent of one Ryomen Sukuna, and originally I thought that was just Sukuna Glaze, but it doesn't seem like that's the case. It seems like it's not about the aliens, because just because they're aliens, it doesn't mean they're all sorcerers. It's the same way with humans or even Japanese people. It could be possible they're all sorcerers, but I think that would just be too overwhelming, and knowing Gege AKUTAMI's writing style, I actually think probably only 100 or at max maybe a couple hundred are probably sorcerers, but what's the actual threat is not these 50,000 aliens. Well, I guess, okay, they are a threat, don't get me wrong. It's specifically this jacked up bastard right here. This guy looking like Sukuna's son. Like, actually, you know, he looks like Sukuna's brother, like older brother or father. How strong is he? Now, we don't actually know for sure, but just the fact that they saw him was enough for them to classify this as a Sukuna level threat. And of course, if this is Usami, who is the same Usami from 68 years ago, which, hey, maybe it's just a guy with a similar name, or maybe I'm just getting things confused right now, but if that is the case, then he would at least be accurate in his judgment of this situation. And given how strong Sukuna was, I mean, I don't think they would just throw around that whole thing so lightly. I really just don't think they would. I mean, they've seen just how destructive Sukuna can be, and what's even more important than this is the fact that how Gege portrays this man right here. He actually does portray this guy as if he's an Honored One level character, or just someone who's at a completely different level, who's built completely differently. Now, what do I actually think about this character? What are his techniques going to be? It does seem like maybe we're going to get some crazy alien type techniques. I mean, we've already seen what one of the twins was doing early in the previous chapter, and it does seem like the third eye may be a boost of Jujutsu, which wouldn't be impossible. I guess it would just be pretty interesting that with Sukuna, it was never implied that his eyes gave him more powers, but these aliens could in fact be a more advanced version of what Sukuna and Tengen were. These may have been even more further beyond the evolution of Tengen and Sukuna, and it's very important for Sukuna that we don't actually know if Sukuna was born like this. We don't actually know that. Sukuna may have been born as a regular human, but then of course going through some transformations, going through some rituals, maybe he transcended humanity in a different way from Tengen. Maybe that's why Sukuna got those 4 eyes and 4 arms. We don't really know for certain about that, and it could always be possible that the 4 arms of Sukuna is what he naturally has, because it was very heavily implied that those hands were a biological defect of Sukuna, as it once was in that double page spread when he began to smoke Kashimo at a very traumatic time for me. But this sorcerer right here, at least this jacked up alien who's the second coming of Sukuna, doesn't seem to have forearms. It seems like it's specifically that third eye, and this does remind me of Dandadan, you know, the third eye, and of course with so many manga, just mythologies in general, the third eye being seen as evil, the third eye being seen as a curse. I mean, overall, this chapter was good, and I do want to say that Jujutsu Kaisen Part 2, or Jujutsu Kaisen Modulo, however you want to say it, is really setting up for something crazy. When we first got this in the first chapter, I was like, a Sukuna level threat, you know, looks interesting, I don't know how this is going to pan out, but seeing this guy with his pure aura is absolutely incredible, and it does get me excited, because one thing if you saw my stream about Jujutsu Kaisen, the first chapter, one thing I thought was missing was specifically, I thought we were missing a Gojo and Sukuna type characters. From chapter 1 of Jujutsu Kaisen, we had Gojo and Sukuna. Well, I guess Gojo kind of chapter 2, but that's something we had from the very beginning of JJK, right? Where there was that overwhelming evil that was lurking about, that just pure aura-defining villain out there, that Sukuna was lurking about, a myth, a legend, a terror just out there waiting, a calamity waiting to be awakened. That's what I felt was missing from chapter 1, even though it was said that these aliens were on the level of Ryoma and Sukuna and a threat to humanity, and we even saw this guy, I do believe it's this guy, in the beginning of the first chapter. It just wasn't that menacing, it wasn't that threatening compared to what we're seeing now. I mean, when you see him walk in, fully silhouetted with his eyes glowing, and you can see his third eye is even glowing in the dark, and you just see Usame and his assistant just shaking, just completely shaken up, and then them saying in the next page, that's what they meant by Ryoma and Sukuna level. Of course, that's my own interpretation of it. You know, you could imply that the aliens as a whole is what they mean by Ryoma and Sukuna level. You could go with that interpretation, but my personal interpretation of what we're seeing right now is, it's the fact that they saw the Ryoma and Sukuna guy, and then they said it's Ryoma and Sukuna level. That makes me believe that this guy is the reason that they are saying this is all Ryoma and Sukuna level. I really think that's the case. Another thing I'm very excited about is seeing certain characters from the original JJK, seeing them right now. I mean, it's possible that Yuji is alive. It's possible that Megami is alive. I know those memes are going around that Megami was killed by a grade 3 curse, which, I mean, hey, if that actually happened, that's crazy, but I hope that's not true. It's, you know, it's just memes going around. Yuji might very well be alive. Yuji was 15, and I guess maybe he was leaning on 16 as JJK happened and ended. I mean, hey, given it was 68 years ago, he wouldn't be that old. Like, he would be old, but he wouldn't be guaranteed dead. Like, we've seen, I mean, hey, there's people right now on Earth, plenty of people who are like 90, right? I'm not saying he would be in his fighting shape, but I mean, even how old was Yuji's own grandfather when he died? So it's possible that we may get to see Yuji as a mentor figure. It's possible that we may get to see certain other characters appear once again, and that in and of itself would be quite nice, honest to God. Yuji himself is not going to be strong enough to handle this at his old age. I do have theories as to how strong I believe Yuji is or was at his peak, and that is going to be my very next video. You know, how strong was adult Yuji? That's going to be I think that's going to be a very good one. I do think you should definitely look forward to something like that, but it does seem like we're getting the setup of the next generation. So we have the Yuta right here, we have the Maki right here. You know, how are they going to deal with this Sukuna level threat without reaching the level of everyone at Shinjuku? I mean, even that in and of itself isn't going to be enough. To defeat Sukuna, they needed Gojo, someone as strong as Gojo. Yuji, who counted him, Yuta, Maki. I guess Hikari doesn't really count, he was just stalling Urume, but imagine all of these guys on top of Nobita like coming in as a plot device, Todo coming in, and them having such a massive plan for Sukuna. Imagine they have to deal with this Sukuna level threat on top of potentially hundreds of other sorcerers. Even if they're weak, that would still be an army. This is the problem about this character in particular. Sukuna was all alone beside Urume. He had no one. I mean, he had Kenjaku, but they weren't really working together on the same side, and Kenjaku was taken out, you know, in his own separate fight with Takaba. This is going to be an all-out war, and they will really need everyone they can get. These two characters are not enough. The granddaughter and grandson of Yuta and Maki are not going to be enough for this threat, and I do believe we are going to get some more characters, and goddamn, do they need to get strong very fast. I mean, hey, look at how fast Yuji grew from the beginning to the end of the series, but Yuji was a prodigy, and it does seem like a much weaker era of sorcerers, which is pretty astonishing considering the modern day was already one of the weakest eras, and this is even weaker than the modern day. The modern day was forced into a state of growth when Ryoma and Sukuna came, and was such a threat upon everyone else. That's why the modern day came, and I do imagine this might be the event that leads to the growth of all sorcerers. This absolute behemoth right here. And hey, if you did enjoy the video, be sure to leave a like for a lot more Jujutsu Kaisen just like this, and of course subscribe. Trust me, I'm going to be back on that Jujutsu Kaisen train. You are not going to want to miss a single video now that Jujutsu Kaisen is back. But hey, That's all. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in that next video. Take care.